I met Dorothy Hicks about 6 months ago. She came to a hearing that we had, one of a series of hearings on the subprime and the foreclosure process. She was brave enough to come before the committee and talk about her problem. I have jurisdiction over the Department of Real Estate and Department of Corporations, which oversees lenders in California. They were there in the room. We pointed to the Department of Real Estate and said, you have an issue that needs to be dealt with. They engaged, and we're happy to hear the outcome is that Dorothy is able to keep her house and has been able to work out the imminent foreclosure she was facing. I come from Stockton, and Stockton is noted for having the highest rate of foreclosures per capita in California right now. And for the last year, in looking at what's happening in the mortgage market, we're finding that people were becoming qualified to be originators or brokers of loans with very little, if any, education in the subject. And they've created a lot of bad loans. They created problems for people by using deceptive practices to state income without verification, and oftentimes changing the information that was provided by the potential borrower in order to be able to affect the loan. Why? Because of the tremendous amount of commissions that was made available. And then major lending companies would take and accept and fund those loans. And those lending companies, one of the largest in California and who funds loans throughout the nation, has basically said, well, we didn't know what was going on, and we're just servicing the loans. And if they can't pay, then we have a responsibility to go after and make good the commitment. Well, I say that's wrong. And building on what Senator Parada has presented, I think it's time to make lenders responsible for the acts of the brokers that work for them. If a broker uses deception and creates a bad loan, then the lender who funded that loan should take responsibility to fix that loan, and if not, they're culpable for the fraud and deception that was caused. The other thing that we need to do is increasingly use the bully pulpit of our office. As Don said, it is a question of how much government can interfere because of things like preemption, because of things like federal and state jurisdiction. But we need to call those lenders and continue to call them before us and to ask what they're doing to implement the plans, how basic they may be for either the Schwarzenegger or the Bush-Paulson plan, to see what they're doing and ask them to reveal to us and to the public the amount of foreclosures they have to deal with, how many they have contacted, and how many they're working out, and what success they're making. And to date, the industry has been reluctant to come forward with the frankness and the transparency that's needed to allow us also then to come back with the policy necessary to be able to maintain homes in our community, homes of our neighbors, so that we can preserve the community. Absent this, we're going to be facing an increasing crisis situation that's going to cause a destruction of our communities, a loss of revenues in our cities, and is going to cause a deterioration in the state economy. We can afford none of that, and this is the problem, not between the homeowner and the borrower, the originator and the lender. It is a community problem. And we're here today to make sure that as a community we're going to stand up for it, and as representatives of you in the legislature, we're going to continue to fight for the accountability and the response necessary to correct this problem. Thank you.